Most people never question whether the version of themselves they show the world is actually them. They just keep going, keep showing up, keep performing the role so consistently for so long that the performance and the person start to feel like the same thing. And that is precisely where the problem hides. Because there is a difference between growing into who you are and slowly disappearing into who everyone needs you to be. And for a lot of people, that line was crossed so gradually they never felt it happen. Here is the first sign. You feel most like yourself when you are completely alone, not because you dislike people, but because around others there's always a subtle shift, a quiet recalibration of what you say, how you say it, how much of yourself you let show. Solitude does not feel lonely. It feels like exhaling. And that contrast between who you are alone and who you become around people is worth paying attention to. The second sign is that compliments make you uncomfortable in a way that goes beyond modesty. When someone genuinely praises you, something in you deflects it, not because you are humble, but because deep down you are not sure which version of you they are praising. You suspect they are seeing the performance, and that suspicion makes real recognition feel impossible to absorb. The third sign is exhaustion that sleep does not fix. Psychologist Carl Rogers, whose decades of research on self-concept remain foundational in modern psychology, described what happens when a person lives in sustained conflict between their true self and the self they present to others. He called it incongruence, and one of its most consistent symptoms is a specific kind of tiredness, not physical, but existential, the kind that comes from the constant low-level effort of managing how you are perceived. The fourth sign is that you find it genuinely difficult to answer the question, what do you want? Not what do you need? Not what would make everyone comfortable. What do you actually want? For people who have spent years orienting around others' expectations, that question does not feel simple. It feels almost unanswerable, because the self that would know the answer has not been consulted in a very long time. The fifth sign is that you are skilled at reading rooms and adjusting accordingly, and you have never thought of that as a loss. You have always seen it as adaptability, social intelligence, a strength. But here is the contrast worth sitting with. There is a difference between being genuinely flexible and being so attuned to others that your own signal gets permanently drowned out. One is a skill. The other is a survival strategy that outlived the situation it was built for. The sixth sign is that certain relationships feel like performances with no intermission. You leave them not feeling connected, but depleted. And the exhaustion is not about the other person. It is about how much energy it costs to be the version of yourself that relationship requires. Psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott described the false self not as dishonesty, but as an adaptation, a version of the self constructed to meet the world's demands. The trouble is that the false self, once established, becomes its own kind of prison. The seventh sign is the most important one. Somewhere underneath all of it, you have a sense, quiet and persistent, that there is a version of you that has not been fully lived yet, not a fantasy, not an escape, just something truer. Something that does not have to be managed or adjusted or made palatable for the room. That sense is not a symptom of something wrong with your life. It is evidence that something real in you is still there, still waiting. And it has been waiting with remarkable patience. The performance kept you safe. That is worth acknowledging. But safety and aliveness are not the same thing. And at some point, the cost of staying hidden becomes higher than the risk of being seen. That moment looks different for everyone. But it almost always begins the same way, with a person quietly admitting, maybe for the first time, that the version of themselves they have been showing the world is only part of the story. The rest of it is still worth telling.